Welcome to this installation guide for Extero's FTK. This will be an installation guide for the standalone version of FTK, as if you have purchased or are looking to install FTK Enterprise, FTK Lab, or FTK Central, that should really be done by professional services, so you should reach out to them and schedule those installs and upgrades to make sure that those are done correct. However, for FTK Standalone single box install, we do provide the download from our website, including all supplemental downloads, and you're able to freely and easily install it yourself. This video will probably be around for a while. If your version is different than what I'm showing, the flow overall of FTK's install probably will not change. There may be a few little things here or there. I'm sure you can figure it out, but this is going to show the overall steps and configurations you need to do to get FTK installed. One thing I will say is that FTK is software designed to do a lot of heavy lifting. Look at large images, data sets from multiple different types of devices. So the installation is pretty involved to make sure that FTK is able to utilize your powerful computer, or hopefully your powerful computer, as much as possible. So there's some components and some considerations as we go through this that serve to make FTK faster and more powerful than if you were to just hit install and fire and forget. Okay, so let's jump into this. On the screen, you will see the files that you will need. You will need the FTK Standalone ISO, the KFF or known file filter installer, and the Extero AI server install file. If there have been any service pack releases, you just need to have the most recent service pack downloaded and ready to install. These are all found on the FTK download page on the Extero website. Simply double click the ISO, click open, and then hit the auto run to activate the installer. We're going to install Forensic Tools. And just a note that FTK is only installable on Windows 64-bit systems. There shouldn't be much of an issue, but just in case. Throughout certain points in this video, I will speed up the time as status bars go by. However, just know that even if you see cuts and stuff, I have not removed anything, any of the waiting, any of that. I wanted this to be a true indication of what you would see if you were installing it. But while watching a video, you don't want to actually watch a status bar go by as it installs components. So I will do some time speed ups at those locations. Make sure you have as much power in your system as possible. We will display some system requirements, but the more you have, the better. I recommend just keeping the default password unless you have some reason to change it. This will make support easy because you don't have to remember it. Support will know it. Now, this is probably the most important aspect of the Forensic Toolkit installer. FTK has these various components: the graphical user interface itself, the processing engine, and the database. This will function the best if the database and the processing engine, including the state folder, are on different drives. While FTK does support single drive install, the best recommendation I can give you for a single box install of FTK is to actually have 4 drives. So good, 1 drive. Better, 3 drives. Best is 4 drives or more. For FTK, this will make FTK much, much faster in its responses with evidence and its processing, and even during analysis. Your evidence processing engine and its state folder should go in 1 drive. Your database on a 2nd drive. Your temp folder can go on the same drive as the graphical user interface, the FTK installation directory that you see there. And then the 4th drive should be your case folder directories. Your case folder should be also on its own drive. In multiple cases can be on the same drive. That's not a problem. but it should be on its own drive to maximize efficiency. And then typically your evidence will be on, say, a fifth drive, but typically you're going to have some sort of evidence drive where you're storing that anyway, because eventually that will have to go into the evidence room or whatever for long-term storage. So this is really the most important aspect. So I'm going to repeat. Evidence processing in state folder on one drive, the temp and the GUI or the FTK installation directory on one drive, the database on another drive, and then the case folders on their own drive. So 4 physical drives for the most out of FTK. So on this screen, specify your username, your domain, and then give your username's password. This, of course, gives it all the necessary permissions it needs to run the various dependencies. If you're not hooked to a domain, just give it the host name or computer name in this location. Often this will autocomplete if it can detect the username that's logged in any domain. And click install. Once the installer is finished, it'll ask you to restart. I recommend that you do the restart just to make sure everything goes through just fine. It'll reboot, and then we're ready to install the known file filter. The known file filter operates on the back end of Cassandra database, so we need to install the Cassandra database by selecting that option. Cassandra can be installed on a local machine, which is typically what you'll do here, but you can also install it to another machine and connect to it through a network. Once Cassandra is installed, we also want to install the KFF import utility. This will allow you to import things like the NSRL data from NIST. While we won't cover it in this guide, you can install the NSRL data into the known file filter to activate alert and ignorables that NIST supplies and updates on a regular basis. This is a fairly large list, so we won't be doing it in this video, but I do recommend that if you want to use ignorable, make your data sets smaller, find some potentially malicious files, it is a helpful resource that you should install. The nice thing about Known File Filter and Cassandra is it technically is independent of your FTK install. So if we release an update to FTK, you can update FTK without having to mess with the Known File Filter or Cassandra, and all your hash lists will still be there as you upgrade from version to version. Now that KFF is installed, we're going to open up FTK and finish the configuration in FTK and configure Known File Filter to make sure it's hooked up and ready to go when we start working cases. Add a database. All we need to do here is click OK if you use the default Postgres database. If you configured your own, then you need to put those details in. Remember, our password for Postgres was ad@password if you use the default. We need to create a username. Now, trusted user at the top will allow for FTK to simply always be logged in based on the Windows user that is logged in currently. I actually recommend that you do not use that. There's some added functionality that FTK has if you create a username. So here we will create a username called administrator. Of course, you can call it whatever you want. We give it a username and a password. I recommend including a capital, a number, and a symbol just to avoid any possible conflicts. I recommend creating a password reset for your admin account. Save that somewhere secure. If you were to forget your password, it's just a huge hassle, and this will help you avoid support to recover your password. And this way you can do it yourself very quickly, very easily. We go up to Manage KFF and we test server. If that succeeds, we click OK, and then we click Save. The KFF Manage window will pop up, and for right now, we'll just say Done. You can get more information on configuring KFF through various trainings. We can close FTK. We're all set up with KFF. We want to install the Extero AI server. This will allow us to do image recognition on objects in both pictures and video. If that's not something you're going to use, of course, you can skip this part, but it's a simple install. We're going to extract the zip and then execute the installer from the zip. Once again, log in with your username, domain, and password. This again gives access to the system to allow for efficient running and successful processing. The Extero AI server also supports GPU. That requires a few more download files. For this install, this is just the basic run through. We're not doing a GPU install. However, the documentation and necessary files are all on the Extero website. Once again, it will ask you to restart. Do this to make sure all the components are installed correctly. Help avoid future problems. Finally, we will install the service pack. Remember, this may not be needed if you are on the latest version. However, always check the website, various marketing channels to make sure you are up to date with the latest service pack. We add a lot of new features, bug fixes, and optimizations in these service packs. Simply double click on the service pack to install the new features. Once the service pack is done, simply click Finish. All components are installed. At this point, we need to open up FTK and do some initial configurations to make sure that it's ready to go case after case after case. These configurations only need to be done once. You'll need to log in with your administrator password. With 8.0, we have launched Smart View. It's our new interface for review. Really recommend using that when you're not doing any deep dive hexing. To get to that interface, we need to create an initial setup case. We'll simply call it setup. We'll set it to field mode. We will need to specify a case folder. This is where all cases can go. Remember, you want this to be on its own drive if you can. We'll click OK. This will be an empty case. We won't actually put any data into it. We're just going to create this to open up Smart View for the first time. We'll close down the Add Evidence window and we'll click on the Smart View button. This will open up in a web browser, but it is still on your system. At this point, we will hit the magnifying glass in the top left to go to the home screen of the Smart View so that we can configure our default paths if you have the license for FTK Connect, which comes with our FTK for Law Enforcement bundle. So within System Management and Case Defaults, we need to set default case path, default job data path, default evidence path, and default export path. In this video, you'll see that I'll create these folders and share them with my user account, full permissions. These paths also need to be UNC, and by sharing these paths with full permissions to this user, it will provide those UNC paths for us. You'll see this process played out for each one of these. Now, whether or not you use these default paths, they are just that, default. You do need to have these fields populated for our automation engine FTK Connect to work. Once you have the path set up, you can click Save. Now, media categorization is for Project Vic or Project CADE. Then we need to navigate out to Program Files, Access Data, Forensic Tools, 8.0, bin, and open up the ADG web selfhost.exe.config. Open it up with Notepad, Notepad++, whatever it is you've got. Then do a search for KFF. And if you're installing it like we did in this video, you're simply going to put localhost as your KFF server. And as your port, remember to leave that colon there, 9042. Save this document. And you can either restart the Extero self-host service or restart your computer. And once you've done that, you'll be able to select your region. In this case, I'm in the US and would be using Project Vic. If I was law enforcement, I will select that and hit save. At this point, one last help will be to go to the home screen by hitting the magnifying glass in the top left corner. And at this point, bookmarking this page into your browser. This will allow you to actually open up Smart View directly without going through the FTK core view. You will have to log in. It's the same login details and a login page will be displayed. Save it to your bookmarks and you're ready to go. FTK has now been installed and is ready to use for cases.